special historical period we're living in, and this is a message directed to the Iranian community inside of the United States, and about our historical relationship. First of all, my first lecture with real lecture with the brothers and sisters at UC Berkeley and Winnell Hall. It was right after the 7th of Tier. All Iranians will remember the 7th of Tier. This was in 1981. The 72 martyrs were martyred, and on the 6th of Tier, the Rahbar had Abu Nafiq was giving him an interview, and it blew up. It blew his hand off and everything. That's why you have a prosthetic hand, you know, on one side. They call him a living martyr. So when I gave that speech, I gave it at UC Berkeley. The person that opened the speech was Javad Larijani. He's been a big shot over there for a while. His whole family's into it. He went home less than about a year later. The next time I saw him, the next time I saw Javad was right here. He is right there, Javad Larijani. The next time I saw him was in 1984. 1984, this one was, you see Niagara Falls. This one was a wonderful program we had in Canada. It was a Hajj program. It was a beautiful program. So our relationship is a 40-year-old relationship. For the last 10 or 15 years, there's been something strange going on. But I've tried and tested it, and I've come to a conclusion. The conclusion that I have is that since every Iranian in the U.S. is a part of that, every Iranian then swallowed whatever they was told. And also, most Iranians have that, I'm doing something that I don't want to do look. It's a dumb look. People have it. Almost everybody has it. And also, it has to be very important because I know the friendship that we developed over the years was probably the closest relationship between the Iranian community and us. And I say that because when we started out, we did an analysis. Okay, we weren't no teenagers either. We started out from COINTEL program. We started out from spending time in Leavenworth and all these other federal penitentiaries. We were starting off from studying what we was doing. All the people that was rebellious in the 60s and the 70s, they was in prison with me. The ones that, a few of them got away, either they was in exile with me, or they was in prison, or they was slipping around, or they was dead. Just okay. The ones that lived through it, and we were in prison together, we studied what happened, how did it happen. That's what we spent our time doing. To everybody else, they would think you're wandering in the wilderness. We was wandering, but we were specific wandering. We wanted this place, we wanted that place. We're studying what happened. And we're also forecasting. Whatever we do, what are the possibilities? Now, when we came home for the last time, we opened the Masjid and the Iranians are coming. So I studied the Iranians. I said, okay, this is what this is doing, the so-called spy crime. Hey man, they hated Iran then, and they still hate it now. They don't hate it, they don't know what they hate, but the leaders, they hate it. Boy, do they hate Iran. So we did an analysis. What is their condition? Number one, they're students. Number two, they're in America. Number three, what is the Americans going to do with them? So we studied them, and what do they need? They're young people here, and they need to be directed and motivated. And somebody that knows how to cover them. That's how our relationship developed, a special relationship. Because everything that I'm telling you, I did that, and I practice ethics. Is honor, morality. That's what I did at that time. And I'm saying to this, any Iranian, y'all used to use our Masjid, all the programs we had all over the country. Number one, did I take any money for it? Did I charge you any money? No, you just gave me enough money to go to the next town. And when I got there, the Iranians there gave me enough money to get to the next town. I traveled all over this country for at least 10 years during the time of the life of the Imam. When Imam passed away on June 3rd, the 15th of Cordad, now y'all know what that is. Actually, it's the 14th of Cordad. Can you imagine that he died on that day? Everything that we did was according to the ethics and a high moral standard. Okay. Therefore, this is the way we want you to look at what we were doing. It wasn't for anything, and it was, we had two things. We had our masjid we had to deal with, the Islamic movement that we had to deal with. You got to remember what was going on then. At this time, America and the movement was in us. It was strange. Number one, the Islamic movement was in a decline. Every Islamic movement, the Dar al-Islam movement, would be destroyed within 1 and 2 years. It was already divided then. And the leaders of that movement, Yahya Abdul Karim, gave a lecture. Imam Jamil gave me that lecture. And he said, yeah, a lot of y'all like what you saw in Iran, but da-da-da-da-da, because it was revolutionary and it was Islamic. All right. So we had the Dar al-Islam movement that was surrounded and headed for a big fall, which it did. That paper you see down there, it comes from remnants. Right downstairs. Yeah, that comes from the remnants of that group. That took the group out of the city and took them to the country. You don't take no people out of the city and take them to the country to spread Islam in the country. There ain't nobody in the country. Right? You know, build a settlement. When they want to nullify you and cut you off, they take you to the country. Rajneesh, everybody. Jim Jones? Well, Jim Jones. I don't want to get on Jim Jones. But Jim Jones was right next to what was Temple 26 on Gary right near Fillmore and Gary in San Francisco. He was Indian, he was a Cherokee. Half the people in there was black. You think black people go and commit suicide? They commit suicide, they use heroin, they do all that. But they're not going to drink no Kool-Aid and they know what's in there. I just leave it like this. I read the newspaper. It said 450 people dead and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That's one day. Then the next day they said, no, there was bodies laying on top of each other and it's 900 people died. I said right away, somebody lying. I don't pay attention to that lie. Do you know today, 4 times, in Britain they just finished saying, 4 times as many black people die with this stuff. That's, I don't know the exact number here, but there, 4 times. Well, it's bad. This I said, I don't like that math. If you say nigga 2 times, say yeah, niggas don't have no health care, they just run around. 4 times, I'm sorry. You can take that somewhere else. That's bull crap. You take that 4 times, 4 niggas, or Caribbeans. One family was from Sri Lanka, mixtures. From Slough. I was at Slough. I said, that's what Dr. Khalid Siddiqui was. I've been to Slough before. Slough is right outside of London. It is. The Indian, African, they said Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, all of them dying. I said, well, my goodness, let me see the wars. Where are the wars? The wars are in Afghanistan, the wars in Iraq, the wars in Yemen, the wars is where we are, and peace is in Europe and in America. And who makes money off the war? They do. They sell us guns to fight each other. I ain't going for that. And then we're going to die 4 times. That's making somebody comfortable. They say, well, shoot, just, you know, none of us dying, just them. Right? Hey, and it's all right with everybody. Magic Johnson, them, it's all right. The piano playing woman, those fine. It's just our health care, man. That's the numbers. I don't like the numbers. I'm going to get back to Iranians. Okay. So we did a study, dear brothers. We did a study. We studied you. We studied the environmental circumstances, and we studied what you would need. Number one, first thing is you're going to be surrounded by the American government. Why we know that? First thing we did when we came here in 1989 was looked and saw the Negroes, because see, Imam Khomeini go to the Mustadafin, the oppressed, that's the people of color. They had them surrounded. The first thing I looked at was the Negroes that worked in the early years down at the Daftar. First thing I looked at. That don't have nothing to do with who it was, just that's what I looked at. I said, why? Because that's who's going to work for boss man, and they're going to work for Iranians. They're going to surround them. They can't get away from it. I know the Europeans followed me everywhere. I had to make a decision. Okay, if they follow me everywhere, they're going to, you know, they're going to know who the main brothers are and all of that, and where all the hot spots are for them, the best spots for Iranians. Then I kept traveling. I said, they already know. Because they talked to all the Iranians, and all the Iranians they call in are all the main ones. Also had a chance at that time to study the Islamic movement. Can you imagine? I went to almost every city and every campus in the United States. Almost every one of them, over and over again. So it's different with me and say Muhammad Al-Asi or somebody. He would fly in on a plane, do a program, and he would come back to D.C. I would drive there, and I would hang out in the Masjid. You know, in those days, I would hang out in the Masjid in each city. Or if I stayed with a brother on campus, I would go to the Masjid and hang out there all day long. When I had a program, then when I was in Memphis, the brothers came in the Masjid, they said, there's a flyer, Imam Musa going to speak. So there's a Malaysian, they said, who is this Imam Musa? So I said, well, it's just me, that's all. I wasn't mad. They just laughed at the brother. You got to be able to take a joke. Because they thought in those days, the Negro don't know nothing about no Islam. That's the way they thought. The Arabs thought it. They thought it then. Yeah, they think it now. That's why you ask Abdul Hakim, the MSA and all that was almost telling them, oh, you're not qualified to have an Islamic party. And I think what's the name told them, Muzaffar said that they got two parties, Hizbullah and Hizbul Shaitan. So the party of one another. That's what it says. And they get mad. Niggas tell them something. They got it in their own book and won't read it. Or don't know what it say. You know what I mean? Anyway, so we studied the Iranians. What do they need? They need somebody to help them and to encourage them and to motivate them. Because imagine you're a young student in this country and everybody here hates you. Right? Everybody here basically hates you. So, at that time, the talks were really motivational, really juiced up, because that's what they needed. They're not like that now, because who needs it? Anyway, so we traveled and we studied, and we got the point across. The other thing is the Islamic Republic of Iran. If you'd have told us that in 40 years that you did the jump out of war, that was big. But think about it, since the war, everybody else that suffered big suffering, but not you. Think about it, Iran, that was you gave up your martyrdom then. Now, look where you are. Top in missile technology. You think they're happy about that? You're independent. Nobody in the world can tell America, shut up, who are you talking to? But Iran. They're independent. Independence is big. Independence means that you can produce your own food, right? Iran right now has been under 40 years of sanctions and boycotts and isolation. And half of it, 8 years of it was war. Maximum war. Hey, I'm telling you, y'all have performed above and beyond expectations. Now you said that's what you say. Yeah, that's what I say. Because you're looking at it different than I do. You're looking at it like, I know this guy, they do this, they do that, right? You're not looking at the big picture. When it hit me real good, well, it hit you every good time you get up and see it. But in 2009, everybody in America, the world, was sure that Iran was finished. You remember that? They were sure. There wasn't nobody playing. They said, they're finished. It's finished. And our people, all Iranians, are still the same way. The news, you would think they got another week. But they didn't remember in the war, September 22nd, the war will be over. They made it September 22nd, September 24th, 23rd. The war will be over. They're going to be out of gas in 1 week. They're going to be this. And it was 8 years later. they're still rolling. Poison gas, Exocet missiles, T-72 tanks, everything you can imagine. Sudanese mercenaries, Jordanian regulars, Egyptian pilots and technicians, and they survived all of that, man. It is unbelievable then. But now, look at what's been going on since then. Look at Iran now. They just sent a satellite, shot a satellite out there. This one stayed. They were just happy a month ago, or it didn't make it all the way. This one made it. And it's out there in orbit. They get a few more out there, they're going to be able to hook up their international communication network. They won't need none of these Euros no more. They won't be able to cut off Hezbollah stuff. They won't be able to cut off, because they'll all be out there. So Iran has acted above and beyond the call of duty, above expectation. They have. It's unbelievable. In weaponry and technology, everybody else buy their weapons. They produce their own. They produce their own. Their own role. Okay. Now, I know that whatever y'all have been told is very important, because all of y'all going along with it. Not only inside of America, but outside. And it just didn't start. I remember 15 years ago, a good friend of mine, I used to visit him up the way. He's big time fishing then and now. So, certain times, I said, maybe we can do this, that, and other. I said, I can't do that. But I'd like for you to have this. So after the second time, me saying that, I said, whatever it was, he couldn't tell me. This is an Iranian secret. Whatever's going on now, it's an Iranian secret. But I'm not going to, I know that whatever it is, that I know that who has been friends of mine, who has been sincere, and who's